俺は大空翼だ。
Hello and welcome back to Tsuba Wiki, and today we will speak about who were the top 3 rivals of Tsubasa. My arguments will be based from the manga, but of course feel free to let me know in the comment section about your personal top 3s. So in third place, the Brazilian Santana. He is one of the big rivals of Tsubasa, and he appeared in the beginning of the World Youth Arc. Just after we saw Shingo in Italy, we arrived at Tsubasa for this match between São Paulo and Flamengo, in which they had an excellent duel. Santana was well introduced as the big star of the Brazilian football, the future leader of Brazil's national team. It was really an excellent match where Santana was dominating Tsubasa in the first duel. He had the upper hand, but of course Tsubasa will have a comeback on him afterwards. And the problem here is, again Tsubasa meets a new opponent who seems to be strong and unstoppable, but every time Tsubasa will have the upper hand at the end. And it is a pity, because in soccer, the concept of Champions League pool, we can make Tsubasa lose sometimes, then afterwards he can catch up in the elimination phase or even the next season. But here of course, nope, he defeats Santana from the beginning. They will meet again in the World Youth Arc. Here it is more interesting because Santana was the star of this cup. His name was all over the newspaper and he scored goal after goal. It was him who led the Brazil team to crush every opponent. But then they meet at the finals, and here once again it is clear that Tsubasa has the upper hand on Santana, and even easier than last time. At least last time, their last encounter, Tsubasa was suffering against him. Then we will see Santana afterwards in the Spanish league, because he will play with Valencia, so he will confront Tsubasa not in the home game, because Tsubasa was in the B team at that moment, and here Santana is presented as the leader of Valencia team, which was very big team in the 2000s, while Tsubasa is in the B team, so we can understand that Santana takes over a little bit at this time. And while the away game, Tsubasa will confront him and beat him once again. But he is still a rival that comes back regularly, and that is why he is third. But I remind you that Santana was tied for Spanish League best striker with Natureza. So he is better than Tsubasa in terms of goals, but of course it is not the same position, because Tsubasa is a game maker while Santana is a pure striker. So obviously second place is Natureza, who was presented as the surprise, the new great rival at the end of World Youth Arc. Here we go to a higher level than Santana, who was presented as the son of God. Here we are talking about the king of soccer, the ultimate soccer player, and this how he was introduced during his first action in the final match of Japan versus Brazil. And I remind you when Tamotsu Ide, which is one of Japan's staff who leaks info, first discovered a video about Natureza, the guy was like, we have no chance against him, he is just unbeatable. It was a great way to tease Natureza, even before we see him, especially that he did not play during all the World Youth Cup. He will only appear at the end of the finals, exactly in the lost time before the end of the match, to help Brazil, who was in big trouble. And he will totally reverse the situation by scoring 2 goals against Wakabayashi, and the match goes to overtime. But at the overtime, Tsubasa will manage to gain the upper hand, clearly by their last duel, where Tsubasa scored the winning goal. So he manages to overtake Natureza, and I think it is a little bit disappointing because this player, which is well introduced as an unbeatable monster, I think he loses a bit quickly. They will meet again in the league, and he will be the number one rival of Tsubasa, but we see him less in Rising Sun because now he is more of a duo with Santana, and he is now under the shadow of the new leader of Brazil, Rival. And the first place is Wakabayashi Genzo. I don't know if you were expecting it or not. Please let me know in the comment section if you think that Genzo is the number one rival of Tsubasa, or do you have another idea in mind? For me, there is no doubt about it. Just look at this slide. We have clearly Tsubasa, who dreams about facing Genzo in the final of Champions League, the ultimate showdown of clubs, and Genzo tell him that he is the monster of soccer, at least against goalkeepers, and that there is always this rivalry between them that started 10 years ago during their first duel when they were just kids. Another detail about Genzo that he never lost against Tsubasa. They faced each other in the primary school and there was a draw. I know it's just one duel, but at least he did not lose, so it's still noticeable. In the training, while their first duel at the beginning of the manga and at other moments of the manga, they will redo this duel, and Genzo sometimes wins this duel. So we can conclude that he is truly a rival of Tsubasa above the others. But it is a very specific case, and that is why he is on the first place. So the two players want to face each other and finish the Champions League together at the finals. Genzo says as well. He also dreams about facing Tsubasa, but also Hyuga. This is very interesting that Genzo has this feeling towards Hyuga as well. And I should note that from the manga, it is clear that Genzo is the best player of his generation, the best at his job, and that's why Takahashi is forced to make Genzo injured so we can score goals against Japan. And a quick spoiler, that will be the next subject of the next video, to see why Takahashi makes Genzo either absent or injured in the manga. One last argument is that Takahashi said it himself on his autobiography, that the first one shot of Captain Tsubasa, released in 1980, which was the pioneer of the manga, it's like a precursor. It was about a rivalry between a striker and a goalkeeper, which made him after create and release the series of Captain Tsubasa in the Shonen Jump. The main difference between this one shot and the first volume of Captain Tsubasa is that the hero's full name was Taro Tsubasa, because Taro is a common Japanese name. In the honorable mentions, of course, we have Rival, and actually Rival already confronted Tsubasa during their first training match, and he crushed Tsubasa completely, which is very rare. But after they play together, so for now Rival is sort of a mentor to Tsubasa. He helps him and he plays with him. But now in Rising Sun, he is the leader of Brazil's team. Of course, here we will have he will be a rival if they meet in the finals, which I think they will. Only if we have a surprise and Spain eliminates Japan. But we will see. So for now, they had only this little duel at the training, and even they play together, there is no rivalry to be the number 10 of Barcelona. We don't feel that Tsubasa wants to replace Rival. In the contrary, he wants to play with him. Next character is Hyuga. Well, yes, maybe we did not see it coming as well, but Hyuga is a special case, because Hyuga is the only rival who beaten Tsubasa during their first encounter. Nankatsu versus Miura, Hyuga wins, and Nankatsu did not get eliminated because it was a pool match, but they had to win all the matches ahead so they can qualify. And at the end Hyuga lost the finals of the juveniles, but he will succeed anywhere during their last match to tie up the score. And it is true that after this period there will be no rivalry between them in terms of Japan's national team, because we never saw Hyuga wants to take Tsubasa's place as a captain. He fully accepted that Tsubasa is the game maker. For him, his objective is just to be the best striker and not the best player of the team. However, it's not the end, because we know that Hyuga now plays for Juventus, and maybe next season they will have a new rivalry when we will have Juventus versus Barcelona. And last place is Mikhail. He was teased as the new big player, the big villain. We saw a few actions from him and it is very impressive. So he is the new monster of the manga, and he already scored 6 goals against Spartas in one match. And we have a few actions between Mikhail and Tsubasa in the last chapter of Rising Sun, in which we see Tsubasa is determined to mark Mikhail. Mikhail is rushing towards him, but shockingly he does a back pass. He refuses the duel against Tsubasa. Then he leans back on him and then he asks for the ball from Raphael. It's a very strange action from him. Raphael gives him back the ball and then he decides to lift the ball from the tip of his foot to pass it over Tsubasa. He immediately takes the opportunity to pivot, leaving Tsubasa on his spot. Tsubasa was totally surprised, and after, Mikhail decides to do an overhead kick. In the next action, Tsubasa is rushing down towards Mikhail, but this time it's a duel of strength and it's not of technique, which ends in a tie. The ball flies in the air and we see the smile of Tsubasa and Mikhail. They jump together for a header showdown, but it's also a tie. But Mikhail attempts to control the ball with his knee, and then he performs a feint dribble by changing the direction. Tsubasa is surprised, but he follows him. And here we have a very beautiful slide in which we see all the big opponents that Tsubasa faced in the past. Bottom right, primary and high school era. In the middle, we have World Youth era. And on the left, we see Rising Sun era. Then suddenly Tsubasa manages to steal the ball by changing direction as well. Everyone is happy, but then Mikhail steals the ball back. It is a very tight duel. No one of them wants to leave the ball. Tsubasa tries again to take the ball, but we see that Mikhail is very reactive. And then we see him backstepping while holding the ball. And he immediately starts to spin. He's not preparing a shot because he is spinning on the top of the ball. And then he sends the ball to Tsubasa with his right leg. Tsubasa tries to control the ball with his chest, but it bounces back. What is this technique? It's a sort of 1-2 with Tsubasa. And Tsubasa is shocked, he's totally surprised, and the ball comes back to Mikhail. Everyone is worried for Tsubasa. He seems down, but not at all. He is happy, and you know it's Tsubasa. He's naive. He's always happy to confront a very talented player because that's what motivates him to progress. In the next action, Tsubasa is rushing down towards Mikhail and he provokes him with his own dribble. Mikhail is surprised. But we know that Tsubasa is a big copycat and he does exactly the same as their first duel. He launches a back pass to Misaki. Tsubasa puts himself on position. It was the same position by giving his back to Mikhail. Then Misaki sends him the ball. Tsubasa lifts the ball from the tip of his foot, exactly how Mikhail did. And here where we left. It's the end of the chapter. We will see how the match progresses in the next chapters, and let me know what you think about this duel, and if you want I can do a review of each chapter when it comes out. please let me know in the comment section. Thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video with whoever you know that likes the Tsubasa series. And we will meet up next week for another video. See ya!